Audio. So we're kind of up and running. The privacy settings put where they need to be. And based on that, good sir, and we're up and running, sir.
Nice one.
Nice one.
G'day.
We better.
G'day, everyone. Post-election debrief.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's Albo's World.
It is Albo's World. Welcome to Albo's World. We've got 3 years of the Albanese.
Now you got 6 years.
Not so easy, sleazy.
We have 6 years of a Labor government. Anybody who thinks that's not a fucking thing is, again,
based on the weekend's result, we could have eternity.
Christ, don't do that to me. Don't do that to me, but yes, we're going to have Albo / Labor for at least 6 years. They're not going anywhere. They've got the keys to the city, keys to the country. Lace your boots.
Intros. Welcome to Dean and Herb Spin Doctors for, what have we got? Thursday, the 8th of May, 2025.
Time flies when you're having fun, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, my name's Anthony Irvine. I'm a councillor on Temora Shire Council, but that's beside the point. None of the views expressed here are those of Temora Shire Council. They're mine and mine alone.
I'm Dean McRae, and I'm owned by nobody, answer to nobody, and speak 100% for myself. I'm held responsible for what I say, not what anybody else says. And it's been a big week.
It's been a massive week. A lot of people have really just been so butthurt by the outcome of the weekend's election. But seriously, there is no result truer than in an election, the electors get what they deserve. That's what they voted for.
We talked about it last week. We kind of, I think we led into the fact that this was coming.
Yes.
I know I have a lot of phone conversations on a weekly basis with people who are politically inclined, people who aren't politically inclined.
People are just surprised it happened, and it's like
about 2 or 3 months ago when we knew it was coming up, I made the comment that all Peter Dutton had to do was shut up. Stay to the true traditional liberal values, and he should have breezed past Albo. And then he royally fucked everything he touched.
Yes.
There's no way he did that without some sort of coercion. Obviously, somebody's put a gun to his head and said, you need to tank this. Because there's no way he could possibly be that incompetent, as far as I'm concerned, by accident. You know, I've seen the guy politically operate. It's not his first rodeo. There's no way he was that bad of his own accord.
Okay, that's your interpretation of it. I think we saw the true Dutton, the true Liberals. My interpretation of it was they knew the election was coming. They had no plan in place.
Yep.
They saw Trump win the US election, and they basically borrowed all of Trump's key policies.
Only for about a week.
They were going to slash the public service. It was all straight out of 101 Donald Trump's playbook. The only thing Dutton never did was get shot at. And that was all going swimmingly for them. And then all of a sudden, Donald put a heap of tariffs on the whole world and got really on the nose. And all of a sudden, they just dropped everything and ran.
Well, yeah, I guess kind of, sort of, maybe. I didn't see him produce a Trump policy for any longer than about 5 minutes. And if they had, hey, big man, what's going on? Nothing. But we're going to go nuclear. No, we're not. We're not sure. Don't mention it again. We're gonna cut the public service. Great policy, as they should. The public service needs slashing. Absolutely hack the guts out of it is what it needs. But now it's going to grow, and we, the taxpayer, those of us who actually work and produce, are going to pay for this shit. That's what's going to happen.
It's
the public
service. Biggest.
It's
the biggest 180 you've ever seen from a rabble. They were in retreat before the battle.
The pricks did more backflips than the Australian gymnastics team.
Yeah.
Angus Taylor, as the treasurer, produced nothing, did nothing, provided no. We're the better financial managers. He provided none of that. and then you look at the rest of the game and you go shit show, debacle. They deserve to lose. And don't get me wrong, I'm not disappointed they've been wiped out. I hope it continues, and they absolutely are just done. The Liberal Party are done. There were a couple of bright spots as I saw them in my perspective. One of the bright spots was Adam Bant losing his seat today, or finally conceding. That parasitic little commie can fuck right off. That was great news as far as I was concerned. I cheered. It's probably the only time in my life I've ever cheered for a Labor candidate. And I don't even know who she was. I don't really care who she was. Good on her for removing us from that. And the wipeout of the Greens has been a pleasure to watch.
There's been some positives out of it. And look, seriously, I'm not upset by it because I was mentally prepared for it. I went through an election campaign in September last year.
Yeah.
I've seen a electorate sit there and accept mediocrity and vote for it and ask for seconds.
Well, as long as they get their little shitty handouts and nobody impedes them on a day. It's only when they get punched in the face, all of a sudden they realise. And
I go into every council meeting 1v8.
Yep.
And I sit there and I represent on behalf of the community, and all I strive to have is integrity, accountability, and transparency. And it's stymied at every opportunity. And the people of Temora go and vote the other way, and they vote for all these other people, and you just go, wow. Oh, you like this. I've got some examples that we'll go into later, but I've been through elections and you just sit there now. Richard Foley made headlines when he says,
and he's correct. He's not even wrong.
He is correct.
He's correct, and we will get him on to talk about it when he's sort of. Here's the other thing that
there was one comment that came out today from some local business people that said we must really be out of touch with Australia. They've all voted for Labor, and here we are voting 50-odd% for Michael McCormack. 60-odd% of it was ridiculous.
I'm not sure where it's landed at. Usually, I take a look till we know who's got it.
So now we've got someone who's in the opposition for the next 3 years. Labor are going to spank us, so we're not going to get any love from the incumbents.
No, it's a useless result for the take out any personal feelings, right? It's a useless result for the electorate because McCormack didn't mention, and again, not a personal dig at Michael, because every personal interaction I've had with him's been all right. Really, I've never gone, I really need to belt this prick, or I don't like him, or I hate him, or anything like that. Nothing like that. But when he was Deputy Prime Minister, he achieved nothing special for the Riverina.
He was Deputy Prime Minister under ScoMo, and ScoMo's record stands for itself.
ScoMo is one of the world's biggest scumbags. There's no doubt about it.
And Michael was on deck, and Michael was set to IC.
Right.
And ScoMo was doing all of his dastardly deeds.
Yeah. Now, he was either in on it or he was too insipid to do anything about it.
Yeah. Now, if I was ScoMo's 2IC when he made himself captain of the cricket team, the tennis club, the soccer club, and then didn't tell his mates.
No.
I think a few of us would have taken ScoMo at the back and said, ScoMo, this isn't on.
Yeah. Fuck, bang out of order, son.
ScoMo, this isn't on.
Yes.
And
nobody did shit. And technically, the guy there that had the biggest alternative club would have been the deputy leader. So the deputy leader's either complicit in that shit or insipid.
Yes.
One or the other. You're either in on it or you're too scared to do anything about it. Which one is it?
Yeah. So, but anyway, look,
wasn't
to run in his parade. He's had a great win.
Yeah, look, and it was never in doubt, that win.
Well, that's the thing. It's interesting to see. I'd like to go and I'd like to see. Like, you can't. This is all woulda, coulda, shoulda. If Mr. McCormack ran in a seat like Graindler against Albo, how would he do?
How would he do? I don't think he'd do particularly well.
No.
What have you got there? The Temora Bugle. I mean, look, and again, what Richard Foley said, what do you call him? The dumbest fuckwits on the planet or something? No, Richard, the only bit I disagree with you on is politically, Australians across the board are some of the dumbest fuckwits on the planet. It's got nothing to do with just this electorate. It's got to do with, I still have arguments with people who go, well, where's your party sending its preferences?
Yeah.
The party doesn't control that.
No.
We have such a...
You did mention, and I recall you saying it a number of times, that Topher Field's got a really good video about how preferences work and the benefit that preferences can deliver.
And I'll guarantee you 5 people went and watched it afterwards,
Yeah.
and that would have been about it.
Yeah.
The problem we have here is that we've got an apathetic, uneducated in that space, and I hate throwing that around because I get these dumb fuckwits who go, well, you're just uneducated on climate change, and you're uneducated on trans rights, and you're uneducated on Aboriginal rights. It's like, no, they're just human rights, dickheads. I just don't separate humans from transgendered people to gay people to fucking politicians might need a separate category,
Yes.
but Aboriginal people, they're all the same to me. I don't put anyone in any different box where they're special. They're just humans. And you go, it's not that I'm uneducated on the plight of the Aboriginal people, or that it's probably pretty awkward to be a transgendered person. I reckon that could be pretty tough at times, but you don't need special laws. So it's not a case of being uneducated. It's a case of I disagree with how you people carry on. I don't like to say Australians are uneducated politically, because clearly I've spent more time looking at it than most. You've probably spent more time looking at it than most. But when you don't pay attention, like, why am I involved as heavily in politics as I am when I hate the whole thing as much as I do? And this is the part that pisses off the pollies, but it also confuses people who go, well, why are you so into it? It's just shit. We hate these people. They do what they want. It's because they do what they want. It's because they rape and pillage with impunity. It's because they like to impact my everyday freaking life without my consent that I'm involved, and I want to fight these assholes and take their heads off. It's got nothing to do with whether you're educated or not. It's either fight back or accept whatever raping they inflict upon you, and try and smile and go, how lucky are we that our taxes are about to go up? How lucky are we that, this net zero bullshit's going to mean that the price of a diesel ute's going to, triple? What are we going to do about the following?
How lucky
are we that
this communist socialist
shit
Labor government are going to basically enslave the Australian population? There's going to be
more so.
There's going to be a massive push to control, because they are control freaks. I imagine that there will be further attacks on the cash economy, the cash system. I believe that the Labor leaders would love nothing more than to have cash eliminated so that they can control everyone in that space.
In the finances, i.e. you want to eat, you must comply, which is already happening in places in China.
But you can only see, it's something that's so obvious in Australia in the last 20 years, the reduction in family-owned or mum and dad businesses and the increase in corporate businesses and
control of corporate interests.
And then the cooperation of the corporates and the government, so that they're working together to basically enslave the population, so that every person in Australia will be barcoded. They will have their pay deducted as they step through the door, and they will be controlled.
And you'll be doled out just enough of whatever they deem you fit to eat and live and whatever.
When there's no competition for your services, they can control you.
Yeah.
If you're a hardware retailer like a hardware retail assistant in Australia, who are you going to work for?
Yeah.
Bunnings.
It's the only one.
If you're a delicatessen manager in Australia at a supermarket level, who are you going to work for?
There's only a couple of options.
Like, this is what it's coming to. Even in Temora, and I only looked at this the other day, and if you want to take care of that, you can.
Oh, you give them a royal rent. I've got to feed a little human, or ensure he's fed.
But I only looked at this the other day, and you'll back me up. When I first moved to Temora in 2000, the service stations, one was owned by Peter Furman.
Yeah,
Peter and Ann Furman.
Buck did that. That's how my old man got the name BP Charlie, working for Buck.
Yep. So that was the the Caltex down the main street?
Well, it was BP, then it went to something, and then I think it went to Caltex. I
Yeah.
can't remember if there was a gap in there, and now it's obviously
Okay.
Ampol with Southwest Fuel.
Yes. The BP that was down on Victoria Street was owned by Trevor Cole.
Yep.
I can't remember Trevor.
Shell was at one stage owned by Ken Langford, I believe.
Okay, so
And I'm trying to think there was another local in between there somewhere.
Now, there was the depot up the top of the hill that got built by Temora Fuel Distributors, which was a joint venture. Paul Marn and Mark Graham were the prime movers. I don't know whether they had any other investment. So when you start to consider that, all of those fuel businesses were all owned by local people.
Yep.
So they employed local people. The profits from those businesses all stayed local.
Generated in town. Or in the district, really.
Yes. Now, fast forward to 2025. The depot on top of the hill, Temora Fuel Distributors, is now Southwest Fuel, is now owned by another company called Petro National. So that's corporate ownership.
All corporate ownership.
BP, that was Trevor Colville's.
Put it over on the table, mate.
Owned now by, what are they trading as? Metro?
Metro, I think.
So I don't know the group, but anyway, there's another group there. Temora Caltex is owned by the group that have taken over Temora Fuel Distributors. Is Southwest Fuel, which is Petro National. There's a new service station that opened up across the road, which is now Woolworths Petrol.
Yeah.
The Shell's owned by interests outside Temora.
Yeah.
And there's a new service station being developed up on the old Rod Lovering
Hole.
site, which is owned by interests outside Temora. So we've gone from the majority ownership by local people to not one single entity trading that commodity in the town
is owned by anybody local.
It's owned by anybody local. So none of those management decisions are made at a local level, and they're going to be dictated by financial
circumstances, certainly well and truly non-relative and not necessarily in the best interest of anybody local.
Well, certainly not with any obligation to the local community. That's just one example.
Yeah.
Now,
and it's a good one because we can, you can rattle off the top of your head names of families that have been in those industries.
But even you can do the same with a lot of businesses down the main street. And
and of course, let's be fair.
There was a time when every business
you look at the grain businesses, which was huge in the area.
Yes.
And
there was a lot of small traders in that space, but it's just gotten bigger and bigger and more corporate as they've been squeezed out by the economies of scale, which is supported by government.
Of course. Effectively,
they always say that, there's so many small businesses in Australia and they're the bedrock. No, bullshit.
They're wiping them out every chance they get. And
they're putting more and more red tape in front of small businesses. They choke them out. They put more compliance and more compliance.
And they keep raising those minimum wages and they add all those things, pile on small businesses.
Look, I've got absolutely no problems with increases in the minimum wage. And this is where Labor have diverged from their core business. Labor, now, I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
I paid my boat, Red Joe. Now, I've got a tin boat, just a very simple, very basic Quintrex aluminium boat.
You must be wealthy if you're a boat owner.
Absolutely. Now, it's only 3.5 metres long. It's just got a little two-stroke outboard on the back on a simple trailer. A very simple boat.
Yeah.
Very cheap boat. My registration went from $97 last year to $117 this year. That's over 20% increase. Now,
please, if we
want to talk about fuel, if we want to talk about electricity, if we want to talk about insurances, if we want to talk about food, if we want to talk about everything else has been going to the moon except wages. Now, where have Labor been?
Well, I mean, before we go down that path, the registration for let's put it on the cards and say one. I oppose all registrations. I think it's all crap. But
Yep.
what for? Right. This
Yeah.
is my.
No, it's a tax.
It's a tax. It's a
tax.
bullshit tax. It is a justification for your existence.
Yes.
If you want to build a boat,
Well,
buy a
but
boat,
in order for
and
me to take
put your boat on water. And I'm not a religious man, but we'll call it for argument's sake, God's green earth.
If you said
it's
let's
none
go
of
for
their
a
damn
day's fishing
business.
on the river, how much tax are we going to pay? Well, we've got to have a fishing license.
Yeah.
We've got to have a driver's license to get the boat over.
To get the boat over.
We've got to have a boat license.
Yep.
We've got to have rego for the trailer. We've got to have rego for the boat. We've got to have rego for the tow vehicle. I'm just trying to think of any other tax that I have to pay.
How many fucking more do you want?
Just to go
You've
fishing.
just listed half a dozen to go
Just to
fishing
go
down to the
fishing.
river.
Yeah, to go over to the river.
Which somehow
Chuck a
these
line.
parasites who don't have anything to do with it, they don't create the rivers, they
But
don't create the fish.
No, it's not
Somehow
like, it's
they
not like a
managed
road tax or a fuel tax where they can say, I'm damaging the road.
Fuck, well, considering
I'm
how
already
high
paying the fuel tax to get the boat over.
considering how high our fuel tax, our rego tax is, let's not forget luxury car tax.
Yes.
All that shit
Yes.
for our roads to be as shit as they are. And
Look,
you may remember.
I will say this. Locally, I think our roads are relatively better than a lot of areas in the state.
Sure. But being relatively better than fucking appalling isn't necessarily a flag, let's hang out. And that's not taking the piss out of workers. I can see that they're doing some work.
There's a lot of work being going on.
Absolutely.
And it all comes at a cost. The local roads, to my mind, and I've been all over Australia the last few years.
Oh, I know. I told you, you're wealthy. You got a boat.
Well,
I know you've been all over Australia.
But seriously, I've been up to Darwin, been all through Western Queensland, I've been up to Cairns, I've been down to Western Victoria, I've been across the bottom of Victoria.
Yep.
I've done some Ks, and I'm telling you, our roads aren't bad.
Comparable, yes, I agree. But now you may or may not remember a couple of years ago, actually, I think it was when I was the president of the Liberal Democrats New South Wales. I put out a statement / press release or whatever
about increasing the speed.
About increasing the speed limits. Now, the debate that unfolded was one, fun. I enjoyed it. Now, the argument there was, I believe my statement went something like this, because I haven't changed my position on it. There's a thing called the 85th percentile. Speed limit should be based on that. If you want to go down that deep dive, just, YouTube up 85th percentile, and there's a few videos that'll explain it fairly well. Basically says that on average, 85% of people will realistically show you what the speed of the road should be, because they'll be driving accordingly. And there's the odd dickhead who's going to be an exceptional lunatic, and then there's the odd bugger who's going to be extremely slow. But in the middle of that 85th percentile, roughly, you work out what your speed limit should be. My argument would be, for some of the freeways that we have in this country in particular, there's no reason you can't sit at 140 kilometres an hour quite comfortably and quite safely. Now, there's always exceptions to every rule, and there's always an idiot for every sensible person, and on you go and on you go. But the way the articles and things fired back were, this lunatic wants people to drive at 140 kilometres an hour everywhere. Well, no, that wasn't the statement. The statement was, where appropriate, the speed limit should be higher, and where appropriate, potentially lower.
Yes. Again,
where appropriate. Now, what I would say is appropriate is the freeway from, say, Wagga to Sydney. That trip could be cut by 30, 40 minutes, probably more, in the event that you were sitting at 140 from, say, Wagga to Sydney.
When you consider that the speed limit has been 100 Ks for as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
As long as there's been speed limits. There's 110 on the Newell and 110 on the Hume.
Yep.
Locally. Cars, the technology, the drivability and the safety features of cars has improved exponentially.
Yep. That was part of my argument.
Why hasn't the speed limit increased?
Well, there was some knobby professor, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, who'd come back with some dickhead from the government, a government professor, whatever he was. His argument was the following. Now, I looked him up after he come out and had his little bit of a sledge at me, because unfortunately, people, I don't care what your job title is and who's backing you. If I think you're wrong, I'm quite happy to tell you. And if you didn't take shots, I'm going to take them right back. Turns out this professor fella's on about 400,000 Australian taxpayer dollars per year to justify his existence.
Well, that doesn't justify the existence.
And in his rebuttal,
Yes.
his argument was our roads are not good enough to withstand it, and our cars are not built to the standard that would allow them to perform at such a level. My response was, well, I give you my opinions on these things for free. You're getting 400 grand a year. Fix the fucking roads.
Yes.
You're the one who's getting paid. You're clearly failing at your job, because if you're the main man driving these policies and all this bullshit, your number one call should be, let's make our roads shit hot so we can drive faster.
Yes.
Decrease driver fatigue.
Increase efficiencies.
Increase efficiencies.
Reduce trip times.
Decrease driver fatigue-based accidents.
Yeah.
There's plenty of pros and cons here. And of course, there's no law that says if a speed limit is 140, old Nana there who can't cope with driving at, Auntie Di's not going to drive at 140 kilometres an hour. She's very comfortable at 100. That's why we have a slow lane. But if you want to be in a fast lane and sit at 140 and you're competent, capable, and you're in a car of quality, the argument then to turn around and have some fucking bonehead go, and our cars aren't up to snuff. Well, whose fault's that? I don't design the cars. I don't make the cars. You're the prick sitting at the table having these meetings.
But there's 5.7 litre V8 Holden Maloo utes.
Yep.
That will do 100 km an hour in first gear.
I'd say,
I think if you unleash them, they're probably capable of 300 km an hour.
Mate, look, and
throttling them back to 100 is almost
almost
car abuse. I don't know how anyone can actually hold a license. I like driving slow cars because it just makes it easier to not pay the tax associated with speeding fines.
That's pretty much all it is. And,
but it's a tax.
I don't think I even told you. One of my vans was involved allegedly in a high-speed police chase.
Really?
The other night. So this is how long we've spoken. And when the police rang me at whatever ungodly hour it was the other morning to inform me of said thing, I'm still pretty quick at 2 a.m. when I wake up, because the police officer, 2:18 a.m. I believe the phone call was.
And one of your vans is what doing? How fast was it going?
Well, that was I get do you own van number, Rego, whatever? Fuck, I got a couple of vans. Yeah, that probably. Why? It's been involved in a high-speed police chase. Okay, look, you're pulling my leg, because there's no way that van's capable of doing anything at fucking high speed. Oh, okay, well, a police chase. And then on this thing unfolded where, yes, it's been, what do you call it?
Driven stolen.
Yeah, kind of, but it's not quite outright stolen. It's called driven unlawfully. Anyway,
without authorisation.
Two boneheads have effectively taken said vehicle, made fuckwits of themselves, done dumb shit because.
And that's your Rego.
On my Rego. Yeah, but I think they're both still in the clinic, to be fair, because they've tried to ram the police, and the guy who was driving, who I've never met and don't know.
Wow.
Was on his L's. Winner, chicken dinner, you dumb fuck. So, ironically, the police said, would you like to press charges? I said, well, unless you're offering to assassinate them, I'll have to make do with charges. It is what it is, but it's been a busy week.
Yeah, that's a bit left field.
It's me. There's always left field stuff. That's what happens in my little buggy. I'll tell you what. Never dull, mate. Never dull. But I guess the reality of it is, the fact that the highly paid government bureaucrat on 400 grand a year wanted to critique me for having my opinion on a problem that arguably he should be in the room fucking solving. So business as usual with these highly paid bureaucrats. They're fucking useless. But our good friend...
I've just had a text come in.
Oh, yeah? What'd you get?
One of the viewers, they said, why do the very same cars drive on the German Autobahn at 200 km an hour?
That's on the screen. Yeah. That would be from our illustrious friend from the Snowy Mountains Council, the almighty Andrew Thaler.
Yes.
Andrew, thanks for tuning in, my friend. It's always a pleasure. We'll have to get you on in the next week or two. I believe I think things have been busy down in your neck of the woods, mate, without a doubt.
The election federal election appearance and the stuff going on at a local level?
Yes, there's plenty going on. And, look, here's the thing straight after a federal, I've certainly done more federal elections and state elections and everything
Before
else.
we go to, I'll just coming back to one of the candidates that you endorsed,
Yep.
Stewie Bonds.
Oh, yes.
Now,
Great guy. And we are going to get him into Parliament, hell no high water.
I had where are you? I had actually,
And yes, why the same cars drive 200 kilometres an hour on the autobahn, Andrew, is because somehow German that was once actually run by a fella named Adolf Hitler isn't as fucking control freaky as Australia at the moment. It's quite ridiculous. Absolutely farcical, mate. Does my head in.
A day ago, Stuart Bonds, who you endorsed, and
and
ran for One Nation in the Hunter.
And I'll still stand right next to him and go over a wall at Gallipoli with him. No
put out a pretty solid post, and I think it's fairly true.
Yep.
What to expect between now and 2028, and how to overcome these issues and push ahead. Higher housing and rent prices. I agree, Stewie. I think that's an absolute given the trend of the local government and the way that they're tracking.
Yep.
Albo's going to actually turn up at the auctions and bid with 10% against anyone who, he's going to bankroll some people into houses.
Yep. And I wouldn't mind betting there are foreigners from God knows where.
Who knows?
You'll
be bidding against them.
I won't be bidding shit. That's what I won't be doing.
Per capita income will continue to fall, and that's true. We are in a per capita recession.
Yep.
GDP, a per capita GDP recession. GDP growth per capita is on the decline and will continue to decline. And the only way that they can show any positive GDP growth is by flooding the country with immigrants, and that gives them a false GDP spike.
Yep.
But per capita GDP, we are failing and failing badly. So that's true. Over 1 million new immigrants will arrive in the next 3 years. Oh, absolutely. The way they're tracking, it'll be very close to 2. More road congestion, true. Schools will be overcrowded, true. 20% increase in the cost of the NDIS, true.
Yep. We've already got 1 in 5 disabled allegedly in the country. That's going to increase for sure.
That's horrendous. It's
fucking embarrassing.
Longer wait times at hospitals, emergency departments, and for surgery, true. Higher electricity bills, true. Higher grocery bills, true. Higher inflation levels, true. Yep. So Stewie's nailed all those, 100%. That's what we can expect. How to protect yourself and your family. Try to lock in long-term rental leases. That's a pretty smart thing to do, particularly before another 2 million people turn up and start competing for the same property.
Yep.
Wait till rates bottom out and lock in fixed rates at low levels if you've got a home loan. If you can afford it, land bank. Buy land in the firing line of town expansion. If these guys, being Labor, are going to immigrate millions of people, you might as well get rich while they do it.
Yep.
So if you've got the powder, buy up some land, because they're going to have to build
shit ton of housing.
Yeah. And it's all just going to, and just buy it, and just don't worry about how it works, or don't worry about the road system, or don't worry about anything else. Just buy it.
Buy whatever you can afford.
And knock up as many shit houses on tiny little blocks and stack them in there 3 high.
Yep.
Take advantage of tax incentives to buy property, because, like I say, they won't do anything about negative gearing. They're going to reward wealthy property investors, because 90% of the federal parliament are wealthy property investors. Yep. And they are going to look after themselves. So get on the bus, get on the train, get on that gravy train and get up the front.
Yep.
This is something sensible. Try and increase your income by doing a few more hours, or get a secondary income stream. I don't mind that idea.
Or a third, or a fourth, or a fifth.
Well, that's where some people are going to be at. And they're going to be the first 2 jobs are going to pay the tax on probably the other 3.
Yeah, pretty much.
because tax is going to go up because they're going to spend the moon.
Oh, well, they've got to now. They've no choice.
Consider a move to the countryside. It's cheaper. Oh, so you say. Less traffic and there's less people to compete with.
For
yes,
now.
but there's less opportunities, Stewie. I don't know whether you got that one quite right.
Yeah, well, it depends which part of the country and depends what skill sets you've got and what your living expectations are.
Yes, and I know that there are people trying to get rentals in Temora at the moment.
Can't
It's
do it.
almost impossible. So
I also know some
move
people.
to the country if you want to live in your car.
Well, I also know some people who try to get rentals around the joint who have no business being in rentals, and I wouldn't rent to them for all the gold in China.
Yeah, but
So there's a crossover there where you kind of go, some people just don't deserve fucking housing, and I know that sounds horrible, but some people deserve to be.
Now, this is his personal opinion. Consider private school if you can afford it. It's worth it. So he seems to have lost faith in the public system, and
He hasn't had much faith in the public system for a long, long time.
And they are pushing out a narrative that there's a fair segment of the community don't agree with. There's some indoctrination and some brainwashing going on.
Oh shit, yeah.
There's some policy that's being rolled out and some stuff that does upset parents.
Actually, speaking of that, I heard recently that Temora's got its first transgendered teacher up at the high school. That's big news.
Well,
Locally,
it is. It's going to cause some ructions. I don't know how it's going to be managed. But anyway.
I understand it's causing quite a few ructions from a couple of conversations I've had around the sporting traps. It's interesting.
Back to Stewie's tips. So take out private health insurance and be prepared to pay your way through. So Stewie seems to have lost faith in the public health system, and
My only problem with that is a very, very good friend of mine's wife, and she's always insisted on private health, and she's just discovered she tore her ACL, I think he said, and I think they covered about $700 of an $8,000 bill in the private system, and it wasn't much quicker.
Yeah.
So I know that he's pretty disappointed with the results he's received out of the private health care.
Well,
I got a better
Stewie goes on to say
get healthy, get strong, and stay the fuck away from all medical.
But you can't. Some people haven't got that choice.
No, I know.
Socialised healthcare is cheap, but it's very slow. You could literally die waiting for them to operate.
Yep, no doubt.
Now, Stewie's next suggestion is get off the grid. Get gas on your house. Get a fireplace and store enough fuel to fill up your car. Again, get off the grid. That's going to take solar panels. It's going to take batteries. It's going to take investment.
Yep, you got to have some dollars to be able to do it.
It's pretty sad indictment on a country that's so rich in natural resources for the production of cheap energy
that we're shit scared that we're all going to be out of power in no time.
We've turned our back on that, and we're chasing the green dream, and at the expense of Well, there's a lot of ridiculousness associated with it. There's a lot of resources that aren't accounted for, and a hell of a lot of production costs that aren't factored into the cost of renewables.
Oh, Christ, yeah.
And there's a lifespan on a lot of the equipment.
And you just think about how much concrete and steel and oil goes into building one wind turbine. It's nonsense.
There's other parts of it that I absolutely love. We went to Blowering Dam for a week over Christmas.
Yeah.
And my ute, I've got a canopy on the back of my ute. I've got two pretty big solar panels on that.
Yep.
And I've got a good battery set up in there and an inverter.
Yep.
Now, that setup kept 3 fridges running over summer conditions.
Yep.
It charged everyone's electric devices. With the inverter, we were able to run a kettle and a toaster of a morning for breakfast and for all those types of things.
But I don't oppose solar. I just oppose it being jammed down people's fucking throats.
Right.
It's the only alternative.
So convenient.
I've got solar panels on the roof here. I don't oppose it.
That's much more conducive to relaxation and a hell of a lot less onerous than dragging a generator up there.
Yeah.
And dragging 20 litres of fuel up there and having it go bang, 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 bang.
I don't oppose its existence. I oppose it being jammed down our throats, and I oppose them pretending that there aren't little Chinese kids working in sweatshops building these fucking lithium panels or whatever other toxic chemicals are in them for an environmentally friendly thing. Just stop being full of shit.
Stewie goes on to say, buy in bulk, have some chickens and grow a garden. Correct. The only problem is, Stewie, if you live in the city, they're reducing the block size to the point that you're going to have to put all them chickens and gardens on about a square metre of dirt because that's about all that's left.
Not to mention that a lot of places don't allow any of that shit and frown upon it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there are actually laws in Scotland, I think they brought in, where you've got to register your chickens.
Yeah.
You know, I believe there were some people there, some very will-spirited people who started registering the chickens they had in the freezer, and or just to basically, you know, clog up the system with, if you guys are going to be dickheads, we're going to treat you like dickheads.
Well, I wonder whether, just being the devil's advocate here, I wonder whether a company like Maida, who processes about 5 million chickens a week down at Griffith, would have to register all of those chickens.
Well, I think that's what all this bird flu shit's all about. You know, off its head.
Stewie goes on to say, buy in bulk, have some chickens and grow a garden. Look at inflation hedges and talk to a financial advisor. So what's a good inflation hedge at the moment? Anything that you can lay your hands on.
Gold, silver.
Copper, tin, lead, zinc, aluminium.
Precious metals.
Anything that takes energy and effort to build will go up. Anything that is tangible.
Yeah.
Lumber, timber, anything is an inflation hedge, because inflation is going to sit there. And if you buy an ingot of copper for $10,000 today, you can guarantee that inflation will increase, and in 3 years' time, that ingot of copper will be worth 15K.
Yeah.
Now, the copper hasn't changed in form at all. It's still the same ingot of copper, and it still weighs exactly what it weighs.
Yeah.
However, the value of our dollars will decrease massively over that period.
Yeah,
so
sure.
All that does is it just means you can convert your dollars, your pesos, your Australian pesos, into something solid. And then when you actually need those Australian pesos, you convert them back into Australian pesos at the exchange rate at the time.
Yeah.
And
I mean, look, and for those who are a little bit brave, you know, I still think a little bit of Bitcoin's not a bad fun.
Look, absolutely. But seriously, one of the best inflation hedges at the moment is going to be housing, because the way this Albanese government is going to go, they're going to put money into the housing, they're going to put money into social housing, they're going to pump 10% into the people who can't afford a house. They're going to get them into the housing market. They're going to fast track all this stuff for housing. I'm telling you, housing.
I don't think that's incorrect. And Andrew Thaler's just added here, smart people need to get out of the cities and build a support network in country areas and be largely self-resilient. And I that's, you know, the same sort of theory there. So yeah, for sure.
So Stewie goes on to say, personally, I've watched my gold portfolio and property portfolio triple over a few years.
Yeah.
While these clowns destroyed the value of the currency. That's exactly right, Stu. Your stuff isn't worth more. The currency is just worth
less.
3 times less.
And the other thing too to remember with that, now gold and silver portfolios, you can. I've got a little holding in ABC bullion.
Yes.
But I also keep some physical.
Yep.
So a little bit of both, because if they decide to commandeer whatever ABC bullion's holding, in good communist parties, if you go back to what happened in literally Nazi Germany, it didn't matter how much stuff you had, they just went and took it. So obviously there's a certain amount I like to keep on my person.
I think,
well, you know,
they're trying to play it down, but there is no doubt that they are going to maximise they're going to get drunk on this power. And
and they know they've got 6 years.
Yes.
Now, it could be longer, but they know that they're not going to get touched for 6 years.
Just to tie up Stewie's suggestions,
Liberal Party.
and I think they've been really singing, I can't find a fault with any of it.
Yeah.
He ties it up in something fairly positive. People can become successful in the environment, and I think that's really relevant. The trick is resilience, knowing what to expect, and acting before it happens.
I think he's right.
So I think Stewie's nailed it there, and I think he ties that up in a pretty positive little bow at the end, because we've seen this Albanese government operate. We know what's coming down the pipe.
Yep.
So we know that there's going to be higher immigration. We know that the competition for rentals in the cities is going to be through the roof. We know it's going to be dog eat dog. We know he's going to pump money. We know he's going to blow the budget. We know he's going to borrow to the moon.
Yep.
We know the NDIS is going to go off tap. You know, we know.
I'm thinking about starting an NDIS business.
Well, I reckon you're a bit late to the party, because I think
I'm miles late to the party. You know, like.
I don't know.
I don't even have a Centrelink account. And if I do have one, I've never opened it. I've never looked at it. I've never interacted with it in any way, shape, or form.
What's going to happen with all these people who've got limited means and they're just getting a toe on the property ladder when things get a bit tough for them and they default, and Albo's got a 10% share. Is he going to buy the other 90% and then turn it over to social housing?
Yeah.
And the Australian electorate are going to become shareholders in 20% of Australia's housing stock.
Well, that's how the socialist model works. That's what they're into.
But even those proposals where they were putting forward recently, where they were saying rent assistance for police or rent assistance for nurses or essential people, it was like the government workers were getting an extra bonus because they were government workers to outcompete the average person.
Average punter who's out there, yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? Like, it's becoming so obvious that Stewie never mentioned get a government job. Get on the gravy train and get as far up the front as you can and get your head right into the trough.
And look, I sat there. I don't know. I spoke to a lot of people on Sunday. We're at Griffith for rugby union for the kids.
Yep.
And obviously, I wasn't shell shocked because I knew what was coming.
Oh,
I've banged on about it on here. I've spoken to people about it publicly. Like I said, Albo's going to shit this in now. I wasn't shell shocked in the concept of. I thought it would be a bit of a wipeout. I didn't think it'd be quite as decisive, but I had to sit there and I've got a lot of people ringing, going, "What the fuck do we do? What do we do? What's the next step?" And I think they're not just talking about from that perspective of those. They're thinking politically, what do we do? Fuck! Had I known this was going to happen, and it's like I've been banging on about this shit for as long as I can.
We sat here the week before and said Sportsbet have got them at $1.08 and the coalition's at $10.
And there's still people who are sitting there licking the windows, going, "No, it's never going to happen. We can't have Albo. Albo's a fucking disaster."
Someone sat there on Sky Channel and was throwing a bit of a lifeline to the delusional, saying, "But the pundits, the tipsters, got it wrong in that Shorten election." Well, I think that's
the silent majority.
That's about the last time that's going to happen this century, and we're only at 2025.
It's not going
They screwed up royally. They even paid out early.
Yeah, that's right.
On Shorten.
Yep, I remember.
Yes,
I was there.
Yeah.
Actually, I believe in that election, I was a candidate in the electorate of Lyne.
Now, I think there would be people who are making that market who have still got boot marks on their asses.
No doubt. No doubt about it.
You know what I mean? And I think ever since then, they've sharpened up their pencils and they've got the,
I sat out at the end of it, and obviously I went, okay, politically, in my head, I'll go, right, I've got a few strategies, as you know. We've talked about a few strategies through years. And then all of a sudden, these people are ringing me dazed and confused and a bit dumbfounded.
And you just want to take them out the back and give them a tap on the head, don't you? Really?
A really good mate of mine who's been very, very boots and all in with me actually went up and helped campaign for Stewie. He drove the 5 hours or whatever it was to help campaign for Stewie Bonds up there. He rang me and he goes, "Mate, the amount of people that are ringing me, and they're kind of half mad at me because I didn't fix it or I didn't tell them. It's like they're so surprised. Why didn't you warn me? I fucking did. I couldn't be any louder than what I am. Yeah. I told you people this would happen. And I was at a birthday party last week on Saturday night of the election, and a couple of guys there. As soon as I walked in, of course, there had to be a bit of a, Labor going to win. I said, well, yeah, actually, they're going to shit it in. Nah, bullshit. Not a chance. I don't know anyone who voted for Labor. You're in Tamora. Nobody fucking voted for Labor in Tamora. You need to get
62% of the electorate voted for McCormick, and in Tamora it was probably 85%.
Yeah, that's like we're in a bubble.
Yes.
And it's fucking a deluded bubble. And it's not because you're bad people.
No.
It's not because you're assholes. And it's not because overall you're dumb.
Your news sources are the Tamora Independent.
Yeah. and it's not because when Councillor Foley says this is the dumbest fucking electorate in the country, because no, it's just as voters we are dumb as fuck as a population on the whole. and it's not an indictment because many of them are brilliant at what
But
they
let's-
do.
but-
They're brilliant in their
let's-
trade. They're great
Let's
parents.
lift this
Whatever.
back up. There's some absolute ripping positives. Adam
Adam
Bent got
Bant's
his
gone.
ass kicked.
So did the Greens. So did the second Green Party, the Teals. They've
Yeah.
lost a couple, even after victory dances. So fuck you, the Teals. The fake independence, that's what annoys me most about them. There's nothing independent about it.
No.
Simon
Correct.
Holmes at court's buying them fucking champagne, lobster, and we all know what happens after you buy a lady.
And
That shit.
They're
They're all gone out the gate. And then the third Green Party, they're called the Liberal Party. They've just been obliterated as well, and rightly so.
But even-
So positives.
Albo would be patting himself on the back because they have actually occupied the space that the Greens used to occupy. The Reds are greener than the Greens.
The Reds are greener than the Greens. The Blues were greener or as green as
Yeah.
the Greens.
The Greens
The Teals-
basically
the
ran
Teals-
out of a space to occupy because it's been occupied by the major parties.
They've taken it over. They're just swamping.
Um,
It's look, it's funny. It's whatever.
I'm just doing a quick search on Labor first preference.
And Andrew has put down homeschool your kids. If you are in a
Yes.
position where you can, one, if you're capable, if you have the means, the capability to do it, all in for that. And if you are not in a position to homeschool your kids or send them to a private school and they're going to the public school, hold the fuckers to account. Let them know you exist. Let them know you give a shit about what's going on at that school. And make sure that school knows full well if you're not happy with what's going on or you have concerns, you're going to show up and absolutely rattle their cages. At the end of the day, they are still your employees and they're your fucking kids. I don't give a shit who comes out and tells you otherwise. My kids, my kids. The only other person who gets a vote is not the government.
Listen to this. We're talking about this massive swing and this landslide victory to Labor. Now, this is from the Australian Electoral Commission.
Yep.
The Australian Labor Party polled 34.7% of the first preference votes,
Yeah.
which equates to 1/3.
Yeah. Albo got elected last time with one of the lowest primary
Yes.
votes in the history of Australia, Australian history.
The Liberals got 21%.
Yeah.
So even if you combined the two major parties, it still only really fills about 55%
Yeah,
of the
60% at
total
best.
votes. LNP in Queensland got 7.14% of the votes. The Nationals, 3.98
Yep.
of the total vote. Michael McCormick probably got 3.97 of that.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine? And this is a scenario, like I said, if Michael had to get in a car and drive up to Sydney and contest against Albo in the seat of Grangler,
Yeah.
that's Newtown, it's Leichhardt, it's inner city, it's very bohemian.
Bohemian.
They have jazz cigarettes.
Oh, goody.
They have a lot of different ideas to the people out here.
Yeah, well and truly.
Poles apart. Their lifestyles are different. Their expectations are different. I wonder how Michael would poll in a seat that's contentious, in a seat.
It wouldn't get a lick in. And, and you can pick the seats.
Yes.
You can go through. It's been done for 100 years. You can sit there and you can work out which seats are roughly going to go which way, give or take a few dollars.
Yes. The Greens polled 11.7% of the first preference votes, but they had a swing against them, which was
Well,
nice.
but they've always been that.
Yeah.
Well, not always, but in recent times, they've been that 10, 11% of the party of the electorate who are
There was a swing
terrified of climate change and hate the Israelis and
There
hate.
was a swing to
fucking-
the independents. There was a swing to Pauline Hanson.
Yeah.
Libertarian Party, there was a swing to. Again, I can see that the electorate, the pendulum shifted pretty much. We've got 30% or 1/3 voting for the Labor Party, 1/3 voting for the
And then there's
Liberal National Coalition,
1/3 fighting for everything else.
and 1/3 voting independent.
All right.
Now, when we get to the point where 50% of people are voting independent, you know,
we start to see some pretty savage changes.
we need to see
The trick will be, will there be enough democracy left
Oh,
by that stage? Now,
yes, there's going to be a massive push to eliminate competition.
fuck, it's coming 100 mile an hour.
That's what one person
Lace
did
your
say.
boots.
The current democratic system is very anti-democracy.
Yeah, oh shit, yeah.
Yeah.
Lace your boots, grab your jar of Vaseline because it's going to hurt, ladies and gentlemen. What I also saw that I made a quite an elongated post about it the other day was Matt Canavan, who is one of the bright spots, in my opinion, in the Nationals Party.
Well, I don't think he's got a case of flip flop. I think
I think he stands for what he stands for. And I've got some really good hardcore conservative friends, and we respect each other because they know that I don't flip flop on my shit. I know they don't flip flop on their shit.
I don't agree 100% with Pauline Hanson, but I do respect the fact that she gets up in the morning and she puts the Pauline Hanson pants on, and when she goes to bed that night, they're the same pants.
She'll still be the same person she was at the start of the morning, and I can stand with people like that even if I disagree. And that's why I've often complimented poor old Mad Lydia Thorpe.
Yes.
I disagree with all of her policies, but I think she fucking believes her shit. Now, I see Canavan the same way.
Yeah.
There's a big chunk of people in the National Party who I'd be quite happy to have removed, and we could send them off to oblivion with the Liberal Party. I've got a lot of mates who go, oh, well, why don't we just join the Nationals and we'll take over a branch and we'll sort it out and then we'll fix it from the inside. The post I made looked something like this as a rough gist. The Libs are dead in the water. They're not coming back. For the Nationals to not go the same way in the next electoral cycle, somebody like Matt Canavan, who's the only one I can see in that mix with any capability to do so, needs to grab that party by the scruff of the neck, go, right, I'm your new leader. I will be driving this train. He needs to sort of have what I guess in politics we call a bit of a bloodletting. When a party basically goes a bit savage on itself and gets rid of the dead wood one way or the other.
But you've got a party that polled 3.98%.
Yep.
4%, less than 4% of the vote, the national vote.
Yeah. Oh, shit, yeah.
They're irrelevant.
They are, and this is what I'm saying. But the Liberal Party are so toxic, broken, and dead in the water. There will be. They have no. I don't actually see them ever forming a proper opposition again. That's ever going to be an opposition. They will be a Liberal light thing for the next 10 years. I could see Canavan though when he came out. He said maybe the National Party needs to separate from this coalition and go it alone. We've got 8 or 9 people elected. Clearly, these fucking donkeys haven't got a clue. Yeah. What are we wasting our time for?
Why are we hitching our wagon to a derailed train?
To a derailed train. So, in my, I guess, little bubble of where I'm sitting, and I've got mates who go, well, maybe we do need to go and support the Nationals. And I'm looking at, I had a contact from a fella in the Liberal Party locally, reach out the day of the election, wanting to know what he's got to do to get me on board. I said, leave the Liberal Party. they're fucked. Yeah. But if Canavan grabbed that thing by the scruff of the neck, and I don't mean a token leader. I don't mean where you think you're kind of the boss. Right, I'm the boss. This is what we're doing. We're net zero. Fuck it off. All this transgendered shit. They get human rights like everybody else. Nothing more, nothing less. Aboriginals get Aboriginal human rights. Nothing more, nothing less. And let's get to work, guys. Eradicate the wet blankets and bedwetters in that particular party. And then turn around and say to Pauline Hanson's One Nation, the Libertarians, Jared Rennick's new party, it seems to have done okay for such a new little entity. And you say, right, now this is what the coalition is going to look like. And then work out how to make that work. Now, it's never going to work amazingly, and there's always going to be problems with these small parties. That's why
Dems. This is where it's going. When you look at the European countries and that, they're
having to do that shit. Yep.
That's where it's at. So,
and that's where we need. That's where we need to get to. The libertarian. I mean, I've been in so many rooms over the years and Zoom calls and meetings and whatever, where libertarians are trying to work out how to work with Pauline Hanson, who's trying to work out how to work with Kato, who's trying to work out how to work with Clive's fucking gang at the time. And I think that if Matt Canavan was the guy to grab that Nationals Party. I wouldn't join and support a party with David Littleproud at the helm. I haven't seen anything of any testicular fortitude out of that bloke that impresses me at all. But I would be able to go, right, I reckon Canavan's probably got enough principles. And the only reason he's still there is they can't get rid of him.
I'm even less inclined, and I hear where you're tracking, but I reckon we're at the point now where it is purely becomes independence. Not even a party, like you say, you've got Little Proud and then you've got Canavan both occupying the same space.
Yeah, but they're
Canavan-
completely different as far as I'm concerned, credibility-wise,
that's what I mean.
capability-wise.
And that's what I mean. Like, Canavan needs to stand on his own 2 feet and run as an independent.
He'd get elected, but he just the way the system's set.
Well,
It's
this is
just,
what I
the
mean.
system's broken.
No, but it's not.
Well, no, sorry, the system's doing exactly what it's designed to
Yes.
do. But the system is broken in the
But
sense of it doesn't
people are
fucking
sick
work.
and tired of voting for someone who then gets told how to vote by their party.
But they're not.
Parliament.
Your council election proved that, or our council election. I was a candidate. Our
Yeah.
council election proved that. Our state elections proved that.
Yeah.
They are not tired of that.
Well,
Not en masse to the point that it matters.
no, but in this federal election, you can see that there is a
Andrew said there was a swing against him as well compared to last time he voted. Voted.
There
as a
is
candidate.
there is a movement away from the major parties, as we can see, because that low first preference votes for the Labor, it also went obviously the Liberals and the Nationals.
Yeah.
So my point is that the way forward would be to disassociate yourself from any party, stand on your own principles, and communicate those principles to the populace. And it would be a case that government would be formed by a group of individuals.
I don't know if that's possible in my lifetime. My dream is that, yes.
But
I
know
I try to balance from where I'd like to be
but I know it's
to where we are
Council
to.
Andrew Thaler, our guest. The amount of times that I've got votes at council where it's a resolution and I vote against it and I'm the only one.
Yeah.
So it's 8v1.
Yeah.
And then subsequently my position is recognised as probably being the correct position. That just encourages me to keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, for sure. But the general public don't see 80% of that. We
the
do have a
public-
fairly
well,
we
the
do have
general-
a fairly committed and loyal audience who do like to
But
see
the
what we're
general
up to.
public are also denied that information by the Temora Independent. That's why they have to tune in here and catch up with what's actually going on and communicate that. And look, I'm telling you, this is growing. This whole platform is growing. And the simple fact that we're sitting here tonight and doing this is valid and worthwhile. Otherwise,
no doubt at all.
I'll give you an example of something that's coming down the pipe. And I don't want to brush over the federal stuff, but as far as I'm concerned, the result that was at a federal level reflects what happens at a local level. The local government is a training ground for state government, which is a training ground for federal government. If you want to see bad government, just look in your own backyard.
Oh, look, and that's exactly it.
You know, and you've only got to look around the state.
It's up and down the line. State government, federal government, local government.
But I've
they're
got
all fucking over.
I've got something that's going to cause you heartburn tonight.
Goody. I love heartburn. It's my
And
favorite.
this is an open public document because it's published in the Assets and Operations Committee meeting agenda from last Tuesday.
No, that's a secret. You're not allowed to.
No. This isn't. This is open. This is white.
Oh, it's white. That's fucking racist.
No, if it's in pink, it's confidential. If it's in white, it's open. Now, we've got a report here, which is the draft financial sustainability strategy.
All right.
Now, this is a document that basically was delivered to councillors. I wasn't forewarned about it.
Yeah.
And it delivered in our business papers Friday of last week. We went to a meeting on Tuesday and we're expected to endorse it as a council. It's been put together by the management, executive management of council. And it focuses on financial sustainability strategy. That's the key. But one thing that they've got in here in their key actions and initiatives, which I don't agree with, is to improve revenue generation. They've got 1 point. Review current revenue sources, such as rates, fees, and charges. I'd imagine with a view to increasing.
Well, no, it says and consider options for increasing income.
Such as the systematic increase of fees and charges. So we basically just put
We're just going to rob the citizens again because
And-
we're fucking hopeless.
and this is an option, and make application for a special rate variation.
Of course, it's the only trick in the council book. Sooner you people are all in jail, the happier I'm going to be.
Expenditure control. Conduct regular service reviews to identify inefficiencies in operations.
I can do that. 5 minutes. We go through, we cut
Explore
everybody's salary in
opportunities for
half
shared
who's in
services
upper
to
management.
reduce duplication and increase economies of scale. Foster a culture of innovation to encourage the adoption of new methods, technologies, or service models that can deliver more cost-efficient outcomes. That's their expenditure control. There's not something that says cut costs,
No.
reduce expenditure.
All upper echelon management can take wage cuts. We'll start there because
No.
we're all fucking overpaid.
Well, this is the thing.
Then we're
No,
going.
this document concerns me to some extent because this document is going to sit there. The management are going to say, well, you endorsed it and we've adopted it and we've held to it, but we've got $1 million deficit. So it's council's fault. Now, I'm quite happy to support a document like this, but I want some input into the document that's been given to us by executive managers.
Yep.
Okay. Here's how it works in my mind. If I'm going to pay you to manage a business for me, then I want you to manage it. And if I say I want the thing to run cost neutral or cost positive, cash positive, as a manager, that's your job.
Yeah.
So you come back to me next month and you say, okay, in order for us to run this thing cost neutral or cash positive, we have to make these cuts.
These are the steps that I've identified.
Yeah. Now, I want to do that knowing that we're in a cost of living crisis.
Yeah.
I want to do that knowing that we're in a high inflation environment.
And we're not in a cost of living crisis. We're in a cost of government crisis.
We're in an inflation crisis. Cost of living crisis is another word for inflation.
Cost of government crisis.
Yes. What we're doing here is we're paying people a lot of money to manage the business on behalf of us. They won't give the councillors the information that they need to make executive decisions. They want to hide behind some form of document that protects them and allows them to continue to operate and not deliver the outcomes that we expect.
I'm a big fan of tarring and feathering all of these pricks.
Look, I'm just not happy with that document as it sits.
Yeah.
And I'm going to voice those concerns at the council meeting next week.
And you need to voice it publicly. Look, we all know they're going to get rid of you.
Oh,
Stevie Wonder can see that.
that's been
That's been on the cards from the minute you were elected. They would fucking love it. And you know what? They're not going to stop because they can't help themselves. They hate opposition. And until we get 3, 4, or 5 in on that council to start tearing the joint to pieces,
but
that's not going to happen.
4 or 5, that's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen because we have too many apathetic people out there sitting there going, "Oh, it's all right. They really mean well."
Yeah, and I like.
Oh, I saw.
I'd have to go to a council meeting once a month.
And Rick might defriend me on Facebook.
Yeah.
How would I cope before? Oh no, it's just too much trouble.
No, look,
Bend me over and fucking do it to me again. Like, God, what's wrong with people?
people need to know what's coming down the pipe, and what's coming down the pipe is a special rate variation. It's been written down there.
Yep.
So
you're going to get robbed again, people.
Where's the headline on the front of the Independent? Special rate variation being sought by Temora Shire Council.
Because they can't fucking budget.
Well, they can't cut costs.
That's what the budget is. Do you know what happens when I can't afford to do something, councillor? I have to cut costs. I have to work out.
You know what happens
where
when
I
I
can't afford something? And you know the first one that I'd like to cut out of my fucking budget?
What?
Paying fucking rates to dickhead councils.
Well,
and then second, I'd love to cut fucking income tax out of my budget, so I don't have to pay dickhead governments. And then I'd like to cut fucking fuel excise out of my budget, so I'm not paying for shitty roads.
I'd like to cut all of the hidden tax out for starters and see what's left.
Fuck,
You know, and
that's a lot of cutting.
I'd like not to be paying tax so that my kids turn up at an auction and they're bidding against one of their compatriots who's got 10% of my money that they're bidding with.
Funding their shit. Yeah, that's right.
There's all of these things, but like I say, I don't know why we have to pay managers to then pass the buck to us.
I don't want them there at all. I don't want them there at all, any of them. And even the ones that I think are reasonably nice people, I don't want your job to exist. It doesn't mean I hate you as a person.
But if we're going to have,
fucking hate
if we're going to have a document,
your job,
if we're going to have a sustainability strategy, then I want access to the books.
Particularly when a sustainability strategy is how do we be sustainable? Well, we just put the costs of fucking these things on people because we can't be asked to sit there and work out how to cut costs, save money, stop overpaying ourselves first, of course.
Yes.
It's just fucking
and run a business. We don't
run a bath.
We don't want to run a business properly.
No, they don't want to run it. They don't want to run it at all like a business. They're running it like a socialist entity.
But I've been
of never-ending fucking government money on the back of the working class taxpayers.
I've been running a small business.
They're victims.
It's not a massively successful business. It's provided a living, but I've been running that business since 1990.
Well, I'd consider that a pretty successful business.
So for 35 years. And there are some hard and fast rules that I've learnt over the years.
Yeah.
If you borrow money, you have to pay it back.
No.
That's an expectation.
Nope. Not anymore. They're cutting your HECS debt 20%.
If you want to have a holiday, you have to save some money.
Nope.
If you get sick, you have to pay yourself.
No.
If you want something and you haven't got enough money, guess what? You can't have it.
No.
Or if you do want to borrow that money,
you just send a form to Elbow.
You'll have to work harder to pay that money back. You can't have your cake and eat it too. That was,
That's what socialism's built on. And unfortunately, as Maggie Thatcher pointed out quite rightly back in her day, you're eventually going to run out of other people's money.
Yes.
Now, I don't know how long we've got on this gravy train before we run. I'm sitting here and
sit back and we'll go back and we'll review that statement and it's been written multiple times, and 1 in 5 Australians are disabled. 1 in 5 Australians are probably elderly and don't work. 1 in 5 Australians are probably young and don't work. So we're down to 3 people, depending on 2 people working.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if you saw Latham's analysis of the.
It's unsustainable.
All
the cost structure that we've built for ourselves is unsustainable. Now,
a big part of me is sitting there thinking about all this welfare shit and going, I'll get a Centrelink account, I'll rob, rape, and pillage it, and I'll just invest whatever I steal out of my own money from the government that is mine anyway, invested in gold and fucking turning this joint to a fortress, and then going from there. But I still can't bring myself to fucking file one of those forms.
Stewie managed to wrap it up fairly positively, and the one thing we do have to remember is there are people who've emigrated from far worse situations in the world to Australia, and to them it's the land of milk and honey, and we can't lose sight of just how good it is to live here and to enjoy the benefits of living here.
Sure.
But we also can't be complacent and allow that to be just given away for nothing.
Well, that's what we've been doing. We do it with our energy supply. We give it away for nothing while our people have very high bills.
We've got people, we've got governments who are just kowtowing the global corporate interests. They're selling our sovereign rights out from underneath us. They're basically just giving the country away, and they're selling us into a debt-laden form of bondage.
Slaves. That's what we are. We're indentured servants to the prince that we allegedly elect.
They're racking up debts on our behalf that we probably don't realise and we don't endorse. And they're basically putting our children and our children's children into bondage and slavery for perpetuity.
That's what it's going to be, and the whole thing that makes me sick to my stomach.
Yeah, and the opportunity that we have is being squandered as we speak. They're kowtowing to too many special interest groups. They're not catering to the majority, and they're certainly not supporting the people who are doing the work.
Well,
They're
so
certainly not-
they see it as they are catering to the majority because everybody's getting a handout.
Yes,
Middle class welfare in this country is off the charts.
yes, it is.
You've got people on 100 grand a year who are getting childcare subsidies. You've
Oh,
got,
look, and absolutely.
you know, all this sort of shit. There are people who are.
If we were to be declared, and if we're declared in a drought, then there'll be handouts to the
left, right,
farming
and centre.
community. There'll be handouts.
Oh.
There'll be handouts. That the only people who won't get handouts will be the small businesses
Yeah.
that go by the wayside, and the independent people who are running their own show. You know,
And the problem with this is people don't see it as the problem that it is, and they don't want to miss out. There's the fear of missing out. Oh well, you know, I'm on 100 grand a year, but Joe over there, he's getting the childcare handouts. Why should I miss out?
Yeah.
Or the family tax benefit of whatever. Why should I miss out? Or so and so is getting that. Well, why should I miss out? I'm eligible for that.
Yeah.
And the problem with it is because everybody's in that same fucking mindset. It's take. I'm entitled. One, you're not. Nobody is. This is bullshit. It's monopoly money. But it perpetuates this fucking reliance on these parasites.
but they're also taking it with one hand, and then they're getting
raped on the back end.
yes,
Everywhere cycling, but it's keeping them on the damn hamster wheel.
yes.
And once upon it, and I have this argument all the time. I'll abolish Centrelink or leave it for the absolute destitute.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, but then you got people who, apparently dandruff's a disability. Like, for fuck's sake.
Hmm.
We're just downgrading everything to where the next layer. So it's not just the destitute.
Yes, but when you're growing the
disabled.
government at the rate they're growing the government at, you've got to give people jobs. So there's got to be someone who writes a form out for that and accepts that form. Creates that situation.
That's this hamster wheel,
Yes.
and it's going round and round again. So we're welfare. If somebody came to me as hardcore as I am and said, we just want to give welfare to the absolute bottom 5% of the population, the disabled, and by disabled, I mean you physically cannot fucking work
at all.
At all. You're toast, you're buggered, you're broken. And the absolute, the people who literally have no idea where they're going to get a meal at night, I would go, cool. If everything else was where I think it should be, I'd go, I can dig that. All right, you can sell me on that. But at the moment, that level gets welfare. People with fucking dandruff are getting welfare because that's a disability. Then you've got a layer of welfare in the middle for working class people who, and the childcare one's pissing me off currently in my head because there's a lot rattling around in that space.
There's a lot of people with a.
We're offering childcare subsidies so that families, and I mean, look, that's a whole nother episode if we start going down that rabbit hole. But childcare subsidies so that two parents can go to work to afford to pay the bills to keep the house running. So they've got to take X amount of money to subsidise from all that tax they're stealing from both incomes to pay somebody else to raise your fucking kid. I'd rather my partner raise my kid.
Well, that's where we've.
Or you know what I mean? Like,
allowed ourselves.
We've let the government tear us to the point where families don't matter. Now they'll say they do, of course, and they're fucking lying because they
has put the big carrot lifestyle up there, and
everything they do though pulls families apart. Absolutely everything they do.
But even we're looking at the lot sizes in Sydney, and they're talking about growing a garden. What in? A coffee cup.
What in exactly? And our food supply at the moment, food chain supply is so precarious, it's not funny.
Yes.
My
wife went downtown a couple of weeks ago on a Saturday morning, and there was not an egg in tomorrow.
Yes, we were down at Woolworths the other day, and it was like, can we get some eggs? Can't get eggs. Can't get eggs, but they want you to register the fucking chickens.
Well,
you don't have backyard chickens because
no one's got time to have chickens.
Oh well, and again,
because that's working their second job or their third job,
fourth job, and the missus has to work, or or if it's a very modern at home, maybe the wife's working and the husband's at home in theory, but now they're going to have 2 or 3 jobs to just to get by, just to keep these kids being educated by other people on how to live in a life they can't afford
and to pay all the taxes.
And well, that's all you're there for.
Yeah.
That's all we're there for. and it's disgusting, and the country's broken. And Dan here has pointed out, I love Australia, but Australia doesn't love me. And I think in a lot of ways, that's where it's heading. I
think it's going to get very tough very quickly for a lot of people, and there's going to be people getting spat out the back end, and it's going to be really hard to.
The only saving grace from my personal perspective is I just know how resilient I am, and that I'll create 25 new businesses if I have to keep the lights on. I worry, and people go, "Oh, you don't even care about the poor people because you don't want welfare." It's like, no, it's not because I don't care about them. I want them to not fucking need you.
Yeah.
I want people to be so strong, resilient, and reliable that they don't need these fucking parasites to have to go and beg for a parasite who's realistically just living off you anyway.
And
it's just, it hurts my feelings.
Young people have got very low volunteer rates. Young people, they've basically taken the community and they've ripped it
to shreds.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm not saying everybody in this community I'm going to love and they're not all going to love me and vice versa. But I know there's an element of it that with this size of yard I've got, if they said they wanted to come and fucking start growing some gardens, fill your boots. Yeah. I haven't got time. I've got 3 businesses and a job to run.
That's where it's at, though. It's just how come that has to be the case?
Well, that's right. And it didn't have to be. I mean,
no.
I think Mum had a couple of part-time jobs on and off at various little stages when we were kids, but other than that, Dad had 2 or 3 jobs. There's a bit of a workaholic gene, I think, in the family.
But more often than not, you'd come home from school and Mum would be there, and
yeah. Oh shit, Mum was always there.
The majority of meals you probably ate were home-cooked meals,
and you'd come home and everything would be pretty tidy. The house would be running pretty smooth. Weekends, Dad would go out and mow the lawn or whatever. He'd take you to your sport.
And there's a lot of economies or efficiencies to be gained by having someone who's actually focusing on that side of things.
Oh, look, I'll tell you what, the almighty famous Auntie Di at the moment's been away for 2 weeks, and I'm fucking struggling to keep up. You know, like, as soon as we finish this, I've got to do some laundry. I've got to get some dishes done. I've got to, the boys being fed. There's things, there are absolute advantages to having that, little community that's kind of all playing their position, running their role. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, and I think this Albanese Labor conglomeration will be working ever so hard to try and break that down. And to split them all up and to
absolutely divide and conquer is the most famous strategy.
Well, that's what they've been doing for. That's
Sun Tzu's The Art of War, mate. Is divide and conquer, and it happens at every level across the whole shooting match. It is what it is.
Well,
I mean,
listen to your workload. We should wrap this up. We've got a few things of local stuff to talk about. Now, I've got a council meeting next week.
Yep.
So I'll probably come out and we might focus on the local matters after the meeting next week. There's a few things that are going to bubble up.
That'll be good.
That financial sustainability strategy. Like the majority of councils in New South Wales are spending more than they're making.
They're all doing that.
They're all going
because they're shit.
Oh, well, they're just over.
They're overfed, gluttonous pigs.
And they're gluttonous pigs because the community's expectations are unrealistic because.
Well, the community's been deluded into thinking that that's their role, and it's not.
Yeah, and I think there's a really important word that councils need to learn, and that's no. And they need to learn to say that to the state government in particular. They also need to learn that to say that to the federal government. But in particular, they also need to say that to a lot of their community when they're asked to provide services that probably aren't.
This is not a responsibility of council. Yeah. We are here to collect the rubbish, make sure the sewerage works.
Yes.
We might even be able to justify mowing the parks. Other than that, nothing to fucking do with us.
So I think we need to really go on a cost-cutting campaign, and it's going to be pretty brutal. There's going to be a lot of people who are fairly upset.
Yeah, well, that's life. That
said, though,
and for those who are upset, I suggest you have a good look at the financial results of Argentina, because that joint's still.
That said, though,
still spinning hard, going well.
If we actually get in that path at a local level, we'll be one of the standout governments in Australia, because I think we're going to enter a time of massive debt growth and borrowings and.
I believe I bashed on about that before our little cancer campaign. That was sort of where I was running with it. Now, for my conspiracy theory friends, I'm not recommending Klaus Schwab's NWO, New World Order.
No.
No, it's not Klaus's. This is the wrestling one that was fun and amusing and kind of entertaining. Just because I know a couple of you guys.
NWA, but no.
No, I don't mind them either. But no, New World Order, you see, and that was fun back in the day. But it's, I know a few of my conspiracy theory mates, and some of them are really great people.
Someone said Klaus has resigned.
Klaus has resigned, been
But
pushed.
there'll be a replacement.
Oh, the machine's still working efficiently. Let's not drop our guard on those fuckers.
Anyway, I reckon Australia got what they deserved on the weekend.
Absolutely, they did, and everybody needs to pucker up and get ready to take your medicine. And it's self-inflicted.
Yep.
Again, for those of us like ourselves who, I guess, voted the way we did, and the people who voted, well, we voted this way. Well, guess what? Unfortunately, the rest of the country didn't. So, lace your boots. It's going to hurt.
Yeah.
I'll do my very best to guide you through it with all the love and affection I can fucking muster.
Yeah.
There's a support network here for some people who have probably just worked out in the last couple of weeks that their apathy has resulted in them being kicked
Anyone
fairly fervently in the testicular area.
Get on Stewie Bonds' Facebook page and copy those tactics down. They're all worthwhile.
Jump on there, yeah, absolutely. Take some notes. Selected, not elected. Yeah, mate, look, it is what it is. And I guess for the people out here, some people say don't vote, you're endorsing the system. Some people say vote this way, vote that way. If it's corrupted, you still want to have done your best to have contributed towards solving it. If you think it's a complete outright farce, that's fine. But the minute you go in there on the ballot and you write no suitable candidate, we got no suitable candidate. We got no suitable fucking result. But the result we've got is coming, and it's gonna hurt. And look again.
And for anyone who's just disillusioned out there, no, take a reality check. This is the Australia we live in. That's the outcome, and that's how the majority of people in Australia think. That's the country you live in. Fact.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's sad and it hurts my heart.
That's how it is.
I know, but I have a sad heart now. Surely there's some therapy or some sort of government grant I can get now.
Perhaps.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you all next Thursday night at Dinner Nerve Spin Doctors. We do appreciate you all. If it does get tough, reach out.
Have a good week.
I don't have all the answers, but I've got a couple.
No. Look, there's plenty of people around there who are doing strong things, and there's plenty of leadership out there. Just hitch your wagon to someone who's going forward and getting the slipstream and
see how you go. Everybody have a great weekend. Great week.